Alright, we're going to take a different direction here today. And I'm going to show you how to service an oil burner. If this is one of the most common burners in furnaces, and it's pretty simple. Now, I don't know what I'm getting into. I'm going to make a prediction and say it's just dirty and it needs cleaned and serviced. But we're going to check everything. But the furnace, it's important to note that the furnace guy was here. They called it, it hasn't worked here in, I guess, like a week or so. It's been really cold. And he's the furnace guy. I'm not a furnace guy, and I know that when a furnace guy comes to look at a furnace, they're supposed to service it, everything on it, make sure all the components are working right, because the safety of the homeowner is in their hands. So I'm going to do what he didn't do, what he should have done, and and maybe you'll learn something at the same time. Maybe he will too. So stay tuned. This is the most important part though. This is your safety switch. Before you ever work on it, turn it off. You do not want to get jolted. You don't want to get shocked by the 10,000 volts that are going through that guy right there. Yeah, that'd be a bad day. You don't want to find out the hard way. So first of all, you have your tanks and your oil line coming to your furnace, and the first thing you have is your filter. So it's real easy. Take the nut off the top. Here's the can. I cleaned it out already. There's the old filter, pretty dirty. Take the new filter, shove it in there. It sits down on the bottom like that. There's your gasket.
Now, I forgot to mention, you didn't get to see this, but there is a gasket that goes right here. It's in between the bolt and the top of your filter can. It's like a cork gasket, so just make sure you put that gasket back on or replace it, or you're going to have heating oil that's just slowly going to leak out all over the place. So very, very important. There's a gasket that goes right on top of that can.
You put your bolt in, and it just runs down into the can and threads into the can like so. Pretty simple. Look at this pipe. But if your filter's clogged, then your oil pump is not going to pump any oil. It's not going to pump the right oil into your furnace, and it's going to have problems, which is what we had here. Intermittent shutoffs. Furnace guy would come, it would turn on, he would leave. Next day it would shut off and it would trip, do a hard lockout. So they called the furnace guy back. A normal furnace guy would be concerned if the furnace he worked on isn't working. Okay, you don't have to go crazy torquing this down. That's good. So that's that. And then dispose of your filter and oil the proper ways that's environmentally friendly. And then you can go back to your oil tanks. Before I did that, I shut these valves off, because you don't want these valves to be open when you take that off, or else you're just gonna have, these tanks are half full, so we would have had a little bunch of heating oil in the basement here if I wouldn't have shut these off. So now we can open them back up. And another thing I suggested here with these tanks is you have them sitting up off the ground so they're away from moisture. But when you look at them, it looks like they're setting, I would say level, but from my eye, it actually looks like they might even be leaning down to the front a little bit, which caused the sediment to go to the front, which would clog that line and give you problems. So to avoid that, all you gotta do is, where your lines come out, just throw a 2x4 under the legs of this tank. Just make sure it's at a level. You don't want it to be level. You want it to have a little bit of fall to it so that the sediment
goes to the back of the tank, so when you get oil and your furnace fires up because it was out of oil, it doesn't clog the line and you're not left in the cold. Another problem you can have is with airflow. This one has a nice new damper on it, so I don't think we're gonna have a problem there. And it's big. It's like an 8-inch dampener. So, and this is a 4-section Burnham or whatever kind of furnace it is, oil boiler. It's got an old circulator pump, but I bet you it runs. But on the side here, to service it, in between these sections, there's little nipples in the water jacket, and they can get clogged up from the smoke to the point where it can't breathe, and that can affect the efficiency of your furnace. It can actually kill you if it's firing and all the emissions are pushing into your home, and you can fill up with carbon monoxide and die. But you just take these things off the side, 2 bolts on each one, and then you get a brush and you clean all the crap out and make sure it's all clear in between them. And you can clean it with a vacuum cleaner, but you make sure you put your fire retardant seals on there. You have gaskets that go behind there that are fire retardant. They're like, it's just like a wool or some type of material that's fire resistant. And that's important. You don't want the fire to get out of your box. So that's the side of it. But clearly, I'm not doing that, but clearly the furnace, see, look at that. It went like that, and you can see the dust coming out of the side. So furnace guy did not touch this. I don't think he even opened this panel. So our wiring's good, our pipes are good. I made sure the pressure was good. Here's your automatic fill valve. So when the pressure goes down, it's supposed to kick on and keep a constant flow of water in there. And we have just what we need for a hot water hydrostatics boiler system. Not a steam system. This is a hydrostatic hot water boiler. Here's our aquastat. The aquastat is where the thermostat wires come in. Okay. Inside here is a transformer. It converts the power from 110 down to 12 volts or 24 volts, whatever it needs, to send it to the primary control, which is this guy. And then it also sends the power to the circulator pump, and it sends the power down to this igniter. That's what this big ugly box is right there, the igniter. Because they all require different types of voltage. And so this is the controller that does all this, it's the brain, okay? One of these, this is your whole furnace right here. This thing, it just screws onto a port on your boiler that has a temperature diode that goes inside into the boiler, and it reads the water temperature inside your boiler. And that's what gives this its reading. And that's what tells the furnace to kick on and off. Real simple. It tells the circulator pump, hey, kick on, we need the radiators to heat up. It says, okay. And then it says, hey, we're hot enough, you can shut her down. And it tells this thing to shut her down. And when it shuts down, it goes into standby mode. And then whenever the thermostat heats up again, it calls for heat. And it goes through the whole process again. So, almost done here. Last but not least is your oil pump. Okay? And this is where you get your air to fuel ratio from. And it's usually, they're set the way they need to be. There should be a negative air pressure of, I think it's negative, each furnace is a little different, but I believe it's like -3. So there's your bleeder. When you have a hard lockout or you get new oil, you get your tanks filled up and your furnace is off, you've got to come down here like you bleed your brakes, and you open that up whenever it kicks on to get all the air bubbles and stuff out of it. Okay, so it doesn't screw up your burner and your igniter. This is your fuel going in. This is your oil. This is your oil pump. And then your fan is inside this big guy. So that's your motor. So this is the igniter. This is what burns the fuel, right? This is what makes the fuel go burn hot, right? And this is pretty simple, but if it don't work, you ain't getting no heat. Your furnace ain't working if this guy ain't working. And 9 times out of 10, when the furnace hasn't been running in a while, and it's been a couple years, and it hasn't been properly cleaned, haven't had this furnace guy come and do anything, it's just dirty 9 times out of 10. So I've been here for about a half hour, dicking around for 20 minutes of that half hour recording. And I got the filters changed, we're good there. We're about to check and see if the igniter's working.
There's the primary. The primary's working because I turned it off. It was locked out. So, and I have my tester here to test the components to see if it's a voltage issue. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this off. We're gonna open this up. Okay. We're gonna open this up. That's, oh, look at that. Look at that. What do you know? So look how dirty that is. Those are supposed to be clean, and that's filthy. Okay, especially that guy right there in the center. That's your CAD relay. That detects whether or not you have a flame in your box or not. And that, if it's dirty, it tells this thing to shut off because it thinks there's no fire in the box. So simple as that. You just go, and you wipe the dust off of it and clean it off. Or you test it if it's bad. You can test the ohms on it and test to see if it's still reading the proper ohms that it's supposed to. But as far as these igniters go, these ones are the heavy duty ones. They usually don't go bad. And this is where you test it. Now don't go touching this. I turned it off, it's not powered. The other components, we didn't pop this off yet. So when I pop this off and I fire this up, we're gonna see if oil spits out from here. So we're gonna eliminate that problem, see if it's clogged. If oil's spitting out, then we're gonna test this guy with a screwdriver, okay? We're gonna see if it's sparking with a big enough arc, right? Which is dirty, it needs clean, so I guarantee it's not sparking right. And then you have in here, you have your head unit, right? And you can pull this out. Once we disconnect this, we're gonna pull this out. And this is where you have your jet, your whatever, your nozzle for your fuel. And it can get dirty. It probably is filthy. I mean, look in there. It's filthy. So we're just gonna pull this out. It just pulls right out once you take this off. And then we'll clean all that off and put it back together. I'm self-taught. I taught myself this stuff from YouTube University. I know this stuff. So a boiler person should definitely know this stuff. So here you go. You take this off, right? And you take this guy off. Just a little off nut. Okay, and then our head unit is loose. And our oil line's loose so we can see if it's squirting oil the way it's supposed to. There's only a couple components to these, so it's real simple. Anybody with a middle school education can can service these, you know. And if you don't know how, there's a book for these too, and there's the internet nowadays. So this is obviously going to get cleaned. It's filthy. This is your CAD cell, so we'll see if it works properly after we clean this out. But make sure there's nothing's kinking. So then in here, your head unit, you just reach in here, pop this out the side, like that, and then just pull this up. And this has to be, this is where the electrodes have to be a certain distance apart too, just like on a spark plug in a car, or else it won't fire right either. But there's really no way for it to get out of line unless somebody takes it out. So, and be real gentle with these. They're ceramic or porcelain or whatever. You don't want to damage those. Just if you clean this off, just clean it with some spray or some brake cleaner or something, and then put it back in and don't touch it. So that's it. So I'll get back to you and let you know how this works out. And after a little bit of troubleshooting, we ended up having to check everything on it. We can pull the head unit out of here.
We discovered the problem, okay? My furnace is almost identical, okay? The whole burner mechanism, that Beckett burner, it's on the front of the furnace. I mean, you see them everywhere. I have the same one in my furnace, and I happen to have two brand new nozzles with me. So I took this nozzle off, okay? And I replaced it with a brand new nozzle that with the correct angle and the correct rate, the flow rate for the heating fuel. Now, if you can see these electrodes here, see how they look burnt off? Like they look like burnt off. They're supposed to come to a point. Each of those are supposed to actually come to a point. And whenever the furnace is running efficiently and running properly, they're not supposed to be all gunked up. You see all the gunk on top of that nozzle?
In the end, the point is, look, we got it running. And Target Patent got this furnace running when the furnace guy couldn't.
So, I'm not the expert. I'm not the expert, right? But just from what I've learned, when you deal with these furnaces, the nozzles, there's different angles and there's different rates, the flow rate for the heating oil, like gallons per hour, is how fast, how much fuel is going to spit out these nozzles. You can get all different types of nozzles, and you got to get the right one for your furnace. I would assume that a furnace guy would know that, and I hate to assume anything, because you make an ass out of you and me. But I think it's pretty safe to say that this furnace worked before for years. You can tell it's an old furnace, and this furnace worked before. I don't want to assume anything, but we discovered the problem. Okay, now that's a brand new nozzle, so I'm pretty sure it's pretty safe to say that the person who serviced this furnace put that nozzle on here. Okay, but this particular nozzle that he put on here would have worked right off the bat until it burnt off the tips off these diodes, right? Just burn them right off because he used the wrong nozzle. That was the problem. I mean, it was safe to say that was easily. It's easy to say. Anybody can look at that and figure out what the problem was. Okay, it burnt the diodes right off of this. If you look, they're supposed to come to a point. There's not supposed to be a bunch of oil gunked up all over this thing. You see how black they are and just burn off they are? Completely burnt. So, whoever did this, okay, I don't know why they even changed the nozzle. Maybe the nozzle was clogged. But if they did change the nozzle, they should have replaced it with the same nozzle. So I don't know what the deal was with this. I don't want to go pointing fingers and saying anything. But a furnace guy would know that's the most important part. The most important thing is to get the correct nozzle and the correct flow when dealing with this furnace. That's everything. I mean, that's everything. So when it wouldn't work, it fired up right away, right? And then eventually it wouldn't fire up, right? Because it's spitting out all that fuel in there and it's not able to ignite it because the nozzles, the end of the diodes, are not in the correct position. The angle of the fuel that's spraying out, they're not connecting, you understand? The spark is not touching the angle of the fuel coming out, and you're just spraying fuel all over the place and sparking, nowhere near the fuel. So you're getting this gunked up buildup. You burn off these diodes, so now they're ruined. They're completely burnt. Got to replace those. Got to replace the nozzle. And there was a bunch of black soot buildup inside the furnace as well. So that can create a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of problems, big time, just from that one little thing. I actually had to use my impact, my mechanics impact, heavy duty impact, and a pipe wrench to get this nozzle off of here. So I don't know who put it on there. It's very recent, so maybe the heat did it. The heat could have very well been the reason why I had such a hard time getting it off of there. I would hate to think that somebody cranked it on there that tight. I mean, that's just downright rotten. But I would also hate to think that somebody put this on here on purpose just to be able to get some return business, because then whenever you call them and the furnace needs it's not working again and they're not giving you any help over the phone, but if they come up, they're going to charge you, right? Then it becomes really clear what's going on, if you ask me. Call me crazy, but if you ask me, seems like the guy who did this, who they paid to do this, and I'm not going to say any names. The people that watch my videos they know exactly who they are. So that's really all that needs to be said. And they know exactly, if they're watching this video, they know that furnace. They worked on it. They know who they are. Shame on you. Shame on you is all I have to say about that, because, I mean, that's somebody who doesn't know what they're dealing with, doesn't know the furnace. To do that to somebody, that's downright rotten. You should be ashamed of yourself. So I replaced the nozzle. I got them I got a new head unit to put in here for them. Right? Put a brand new head unit with the diodes that were correctly positioned with the correct nozzle, the angle of, and the rate of flow of the oil. That thing fired up and it hasn't shut off since. It's running great. It's running great. And you could see by the furnace how old the components are. I mean, like the circulator pump, the fan on that thing, on that burner, it's pretty old. But it's running like a champ. So, I mean, if there's some other explanation, I'd love to hear it. I'm all ears. But from what it looks like to me, and from the the knowledge that I've gained, that I've learned through just dealing with my own, teaching myself how to do this, that's pretty messed up. That looks like somebody did something they weren't supposed to do, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
Chief Handler. Somebody bounce him. Ban Chief Handler. How do you like them fucking apples? This isn't a free speech platform for fucking douchebags.
So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I want to be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions in the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep, move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep on this evening. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. And when they try to change, you can say no, free me.
I guess I don't have any haters watching me anymore.